Welcome to this episode of the Let's Talk Tenkara podcast. I'm Brendan Harden. This week's episode is going to be the end of season 1 of the podcast, and we will pick back up probably late January, early February, as we get past the holiday season and things start to calm down a little bit. I'm going to take some time, spend it with family, friends, and just enjoy the holiday season as I hope all of you do. But with that being said, this week's episode, I wanted to spend some time and talk specifically about some tips and tricks for winter fly fishing. Specifically, obviously, winter Tenkara fishing. Some things that we're going to be getting into. We'll talk about fly selection, what to look for water-wise, and things like that. But yeah, let's get into things. First things first, when fly fishing in the winter months, sleep in. Enjoy some time at home in your nice warm bed. The fish are not going to be very active in the mornings. Now, that's not to say you won't catch fish in the mornings. It's just not going to be as many. The fish are going to be more active as the weather warms up. The water's going to warm up just a little bit, and that's really going to be when the fish are starting to move. Those winter bug hatches are going to happen later in the day as well. So I generally recommend that when winter Tenkara fishing or winter fishing outside of ice fishing, you're going to want to get started somewhere around noon. Surprisingly, days where it is gray, just cloud cover, and it's just no wind, just nice calm, but there's a little bit of snow. Those days are surprisingly efficient and effective for fishing. A lot of people are going to stay indoors. The odds of you running into another fisherman on the river in the winter are very low. In fact, I don't know that I've ever ran into someone else fishing on the river during the winter. But those days when you look at the weather and it's just like no one is going to be outside today, are honestly some of the best fishing trips I've ever had in the winter. Get out there, the fish are going to be feeding. And like I said, you're going to want to get out around noon. Those hatches are going to start around midday as it warms up just a little bit. They'll slow down as it cools down in the evening. But really, about noon to 3 o'clock is going to be that prime window of being out there. Now, as far as like flies and things like that, my personal preference and go-to for winter fly fishing is the zebra midge. The zebra midge has yielded more fish for me in the winter than any other fly in my lineup. I generally just run a black zebra midge with a silver or copper wire. It doesn't seem to matter which. But that fly, little bead head, generally sizes 18 to 22 is going to be the size of fly that you're looking at. But you can get into these other flies as well. A really good fly for just finding fish in the winter is going to be like a prince nymph. Perdigon nymphs fish really well in the winter. Copper johns as well. The biggest problem you'll run into with a copper john in a lot of cases is that's just a little bit too much weight for a lot of fly rods out there. With that being said, one of my favorite flies I got from Dragontail Tenkara, it's a copper john kabari. I love those flies. They fish really well for me. I've had a lot of success fishing them in the winter. But like I said, my go-to is going to be that zebra midge. Some other flies to look into. A lot of people report success dead drifting streamers in the winter. The sculpins are still going to be active. Smaller fish are still going to be active. A lot of times you can just get those bigger trout to strike a small bait fish because it's going to be a little bit more energy to catch it, but it's going to yield a lot bigger outcome calorie wise for them. So they'll take that opportunity if it presents itself. Now, as we get into these next set of flies, I want to touch really quick some of the things that or one of the things that we're looking for in winter fly fishing is we're actually watching for rises. A lot of people don't realize that fish are rising in the winter as those bugs do hatch. It's the same as when they hatch during the summer, they're rising towards the top. So emergers are going to fish well. But some dry flies are actually going to fish really well. Like I said, you're going to want to stay smaller sizes, but getting into some of the Griffith snats, and things like that are small black flies. They're going to look like clusters of those midges at the top of the water, and a lot of times you'll yield fish doing that. Now, I might get some slack for this, but one of my favorite fly fishing methods in the winter, obviously Tenkara, but I really like fishing a dropper. It's going to give you the ability to fish different depths at the same time and just be more effective at figuring out where those fish are. Now, as those flies are moving through the water column, a lot of times the occasional bug drifting by and just maintain as many or as much of that fat that they've worked all fall to put on as they possibly can. So that those are really going to be some of the things that we're watching for fly wise and water selection wise. Some of the same things that you're watching for during the summer months, like if there's a seam where the faster water meets a slower pool, there's going to be fish in that seam. Uh, Above rocks where they can hole up and extend very little energy. I mean, all these same things that we're looking for, with the exception of I fish a lot more shallow water in the summer than I will in the winter. Another thing, just slow down. Take your time. I know I'm an advocate, and I've said it on here before. I like moving pretty quick when I'm out fishing. There's a lot of stream out there. I've said it before. But slow down and really take your time. Pick apart every little pocket that looks like there might be a fish. You're going to find that it's going to be more effective that way. Just take your time, move slowly with your approach. I mean, you're going to get out there, and during the summer, you can move a little bit freer. There's cover that the fish can hide under that you're trying to get your fly down into. There's all sorts of different things. You can use brush to hide behind. Well, that brush doesn't have leaves now. It's going to be a lot harder to hide. These fish are going to see you a lot quicker. So take your time, move slow. If you can, keep your feet dry, stay on the bank. It's going to increase your chances of getting into fish. With that being said, if you do need to wade, I know I still fish a lot of streams where they're too small to have access from the shore. So don't be afraid to get your feet in the water. But with that being said, take your time, dress warm, insulated waders, do everything you can to put yourself in the best situation possible to protect yourself and be safe out there. Hypothermia is a real threat in the winter, and we want to stay warm and be protected. On the subject of staying warm, we want to keep these fish in the water. They're going to be warm in the water. Recent studies have shown for every 15 seconds a fish is out of the water when it's below freezing, their chance of survival goes down by about 15%. So we want to keep these fish in the water. If you want to get a picture, pull them up, get everything ready, pull them up out. I don't even handle the fish in the winter. I leave them in the net. Lift that fish barely to the surface, take your picture, and get them back in the water. We want to keep these fish alive, keep these water bodies healthy, and preserve them for years to come, to where they're consistently being a good persistent place that you can find fish. As you're going through these things, it's really going to improve your ability to get into fish and keep getting into fish all winter long. Now, some other things when you're or tenkara fishing in the winter, I always downsize my tippet. I normally run a 4X or a 5X. In the winter, I run a 6X. The water's clearer. We're fishing slower moving water. These fish are going to be more picky. What is coming downstream to them, and you want to have as little possibility that they're going to see that tippet. With that being said, I also use specifically clear fluorocarbon tippet. Like I said, size 6 is generally where I go. That way, you've still got a little bit of strength to it to be able to handle those bigger fish when you hook into them, but you're going to be able to have the lowest visibility for that tippet in the water as possible. Some other things. Let's see. Sorry, I gotta remember where I'm going here. Like I said, small fly patterns. Just keep moving slow. A lot of people are against gloves, and when you're fly fishing or fishing in general, obviously wear gloves. If you're going to handle the fish, take the gloves off, wet your hands just like you normally would, then dry your hands off, get your gloves back on. We want to stay warm, like I said. Be quiet and avoid fast movements. The fish are gonna pot up when the flows are low. They're gonna be in higher concentration areas, and with that being said, if you spook those fish, they're not gonna bite. If you can get low, move slow, that's gonna increase your chances of getting into the fish. Tailwaters are gonna yield a lot of fish. They're going to be pulled up under those dams or even in the inlets of reservoirs and lakes. They're going to be pulled up in high concentration areas where there's going to be a lot of food flowing. And so those are going to be some of the areas that you're going to want to target. Always carry a thermometer, or at least check what the most recent recorded temperatures of the water are. You're going to want to fish generally 40 to 45 degree water. Warmer than that's fine. Much colder than that, and the fish are going to be very slow moving. They're not going to be very active at all. Spring creeks, smaller streams, those are going to yield some pretty consistent water temperatures. Stay away if you know an area, a stream is specifically snow runoff. Those are going to be colder temperature streams. Sorry, I'm just picking my mind here, and you're going to get a lot of random facts as I'm doing so, or random tips. If you see ice extending out over some water, drift your fly along that ice edge. The fish, a lot of times, I mean, during the summer, we're looking for 3 key components for where we're going to find fish. Generally, you're going to want cover, a little bit of depth, and food. Well, during the winter, like I already mentioned, the brush and stuff like that, the cover is pretty much gone. When you can find an ice overhanging or a snowbank overhanging the edge of the water, fish along the edge of that. The fish are going to use that as their cover to get up in there and have that. Now, there's a lot of different places you can look that are going to yield trout in the winter. Bigger rivers are obviously going to be a hot spot where they're a little bit deeper. I mean, some examples in Utah, obviously the Green River, the Provo River, those are going to be some hot spots. Up in Idaho, I grew up in Idaho. Snake River, the Boise River. There's a lot of different areas that you can look, but those are going to be two of your biggest ones. The Boise River specifically, if you get up into the mountains above Fairfield, up by Anderson Reservoir, there's always some good winter fishing up in there if you can access it, but that area is harder to get into once the snow starts to fall, obviously. There's a lot of different areas you can look at, but really, you're just going to want to play it. For me personally, I've gone out on days where I get out to the stream and it's negative 14 degrees outside. I've caught fish on those days, but generally my best fishing days are going to be when the temperature's up around 30 to mid 30s, if not a little bit warmer. Obviously warmer is going to be more productive, the fish are going to be more active, but those 30-degree and warmer days are really what I'm looking for when I'm going out. Again, I do go out when it's cold regardless because I like to get out, but I expect those days to be a slower day. Cloudy days, like I said, going to be productive. If, like I said, if the weather just is bad enough that people aren't going to be out there, maybe you consider getting out there because those are going to be some of your better fishing days. Something else to consider, the sun is lower in the sky in the winter. That's going to cast a longer shadow, so you're going to have to be more conscious about where that shadow is on the water and making sure that it's not somewhere where it's just going to spook the next hole. So your position and approaching holes is going to be a lot more important. Let's see, trying to pick my mind here and think if I can think of anything else. But I think we really hit on all this. Be safe out there. Don't go too far away from your vehicles. Dress warm. Insulated waders. Wear gloves. If you can, keep the fish in the water. If you've got to get them out of the water, keep them out as little as possible and get them right back in. If you want to fish or get a picture with the fish, like I said, I don't take them out of the net. I'll lift the net just to the surface of the water, grab my picture, get them right back in the water. Forceps are going to be your best friend to keep your hands dry and remove hooks. So definitely, if you don't use forceps normally, I highly. And overall, just get out and have fun. Explore the streams, catch fish. Watch out for drifting ice, things like that. If you step on the ice, I don't recommend going out on the ice on streams and rivers. Way too much hazard. But if you do step on the ice, just be aware of the situation around you. Don't go out on the ice if you know that it's a deeper pool, a chance where you're going to risk getting in a situation that's going to put you at risk of getting hypothermia. Or just get out there, fish, explore, have a good time. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. If you have any questions or recommendations for future episodes, please reach out to me. You can find me on Instagram at Let's Talk Tenkara, or reach out to me via email at letstalktenkara@gmail.com. I do love hearing from you guys. We are still looking for people to fill our 50 states episodes that will continue next season. Like I said, be on the lookout for next season to start towards the end of January, beginning of February. I'll throw a post up on my socials as we get a little bit closer and I figure out when that's going to be. But get out there, enjoy yourselves, and have a happy holiday season. Thanks again for tuning in, and tune in next time.
This has been the Let's Talk Tenkara podcasts, hosted by Brendan Harden. reach us on Instagram at Let's Talk Tenkara. You can also shoot us an email at letstalktenkara@gmail.com. Feel free to reach out with any suggestions for future episodes. Or if you or someone you know would like to be featured on the show, or you think they'd be a good fit, shoot us a message and we'll be happy to talk to you. Thank you for tuning in, and tune in next time and Let's Talk Tenkara, a Salt Lake Tenkara production.